Thank you, Kathy. Uh, Tonight's planning board meeting, uh, first item on our agenda is a PowerPoint presentation for the public and for public information. This is our kickoff meeting for our visioning plan. We're going to walk through some PowerPoint presentation that Kathy is going to make. Some members of the public may be joining us. Kathy will be able to provide access to attendees who are here. And Kathy's going to share her screen with us. The overall presentation is one we're going to give you from an overview point of view, what our schedule and plan is for this visioning process. This information session is the next step in our public engagement plan. First of all, I want to thank all who registered, who may be participating this evening with us. We really appreciate your interest and willingness to help us in this important process and to make it as informative and meaningful as we can. So thank you to all who might be watching this now with us and those who may follow up on a YouTube presentation to become more informed. We really appreciate it. The power presentation will be given by Kathy Williams, our town planner, as she is sharing her screen with us right now. For those who wish, you can also obtain a hard copy of this posted on the Yarmouth town website. I would ask that all attendees and board members hold their questions until the end of the presentation, and at that point, our moderator, Kathy Williams, will be able to facilitate your access to ask any questions you have or make comments. And with that, I would like to start. So Kathy, the first thing we want to do is introduce our planning board members. I am Joanne Crowley. I'm the chair of the planning board. I live in South Yarmouth. Liz Hartsgrove is our vice chair. Tom Barron is our clerk. Other members of the board are Brad Goodwin, Chris Vincent, Will Rubenstein, and Susan Britta. I'd like to turn the presentation now over to Kathy Williams, who will walk through this information session for us. Kathy?
Thank you, Joanne. I'd really like to thank everyone who's participating tonight, and I certainly hope this is a good omen for future participation in this process. Thank you very much, and hopefully everyone will continue to stay engaged in our process. Many of you may be wondering what we mean by community visioning. This is basically the process where the Yarmouth community tells us what they want Yarmouth to be like in the future. What's the best version of Yarmouth that you see in the future? The planning board is embarking on this process so we can get the feedback necessary to create a vision statement and ultimately a vision plan, which will express our community's core values and preferences, basically our guiding principles for our community. And these can include a lot of different viewpoints. It can be something related to preservation of our environmental resources, where in town we would like to see development, where we would like to not see development, whether we want to create a more diverse or sustainable economy, whether we want to have different housing opportunities, or whether we can identify some community services that aren't being adequately serviced to our residents. So we're hoping to garner a lot of input from the public about what's important to them. And these community goals and objectives in the vision plan, we're going to be using those for a very good purpose. It's going to be providing very good, valuable information to our town leaders to help identify future goals for our entire community. Each year, the Board of Selectmen does their annual goals, and hopefully this will help guide some of those goals in the future. It will also support the creation of our local comprehensive plan, which serves as our community's master plan. And that's going to be something that we do after this, and it's a process where we're going to be defining very specific goals with implementation strategies and outlining very specific timelines and who's going to be responsible for meeting these objectives. So the vision plan is where we want to go, but the local comprehensive plan tells us how are we going to get there? How do we actually make our vision happen? So how do we get there? Yarmouth Planning Board cannot do it alone. It is truly a community-driven process, and we need to hear your thoughts and ideas throughout this entire process. The planning board has developed a fairly comprehensive public engagement plan that involves a lot of direct outreach. There's social media, press releases, flyers. There was actually a little flyer in everyone's water bill earlier this year, Channel 18 bulletins, emails to civic associations and committees and neighborhood groups. But the biggest hub for the latest information on our community visioning process is that community visioning web page that you see there on your screen. You can also go there and sign up for updates via email, so you will get direct latest information sent directly to your inbox, so you know what's going on all along the process. But another thing, even the planning board in their engagement plan, we know we're not going to hit everybody. So if you guys, anyone who's involved in this process or has heard about this process, spread the word. You know, you have different groups. You maybe have Facebook pages you can send it to. Maybe you belong to different groups that have newsletters that you can get that information in there. The more people who know about it, the more productive and a better product we're going to have. So you'd be doing us all a great favor if you could kind of spread the word on our project. So before we started to look into the future, we thought it might be a good idea to let people know where we are now, to kind of get a better understanding of what's happening in our community. So we developed a lot of different data summary sheets on a wide variety of topics. We have community services, local economy, housing, community design, open space, climate resiliency, infrastructure, and water resources. These are not a deep dive into any one topic, so I'm sure someone will say we're missing something, and undoubtedly we are. But it was just to give a general idea of some basic data, some notable trends, what are some existing programs and initiatives that are ongoing right now, and also what are we working on for the future? What are some of the projects we actually have in the works? And at the end of each one of these, there's some tickler questions that you might want to start thinking about before you attend a workshop or you fill out the survey. And I encourage everyone to really take a look at it. They're only a few pages long, and you might really be surprised with some of the information that's in there. Things like information on our municipal wastewater initiative to address our water quality and nitrogen issues, evaluating in the future potential reuse opportunities for the Matakees Middle School when the new school gets built. The police's new community relations team to help build and maintain relationships between the police and diverse populations. We're investigating improvements or possibly a new library, which I personally find very exciting. We have the extension of the Cape Cod Rail Trail that's going into Barnstable. We also are designing a shared use pathway along a section of Higgins Kroll Road. And we also have multiple Mass DOT projects that are currently in design along Route 28. We have the Bass River Bridge, which is being designed right now. There's also the Four Corners there, right when you get off the bridge at the intersection of North Main, Old Main, and Route 28. And there's also a resurfacing project that's underway that's just getting started in design from the Parkers River all the way to the Barnstable town line. These are things that are underway that can have a significant impact on Yarmouth, not just how it functions, but how it looks and how it feels for people traveling through our community. So there's a lot of really good information on those data sheets. Again, all on that visioning website that I mentioned. It's where all the good stuff is. So a lot of you are here because you want to get involved, and we're going to give you some ways to get involved. We are launching a survey, and it's going to be online, and we'll also have hard copies spread around town, and we're going to include it in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. I did learn about Google Translate, thank you, and it is a very effective product. So we have that. We have a little question to finalize later in this meeting, but hopefully that should be up on the website by Friday. We also have 3 virtual workshops scheduled for November 18th at 5:30, December 7th at 9 a.m., and December 15th at 2 p.m. We tried to pick different days and different times to maximize people's ability to participate. The details on registering for the workshop and access to the survey, as I mentioned, will be on the website hopefully by Friday of this week. It's important that people pre-register because we want to keep the groups, the size and the number of people in the workshops to a reasonable number, because we're going to have actually smaller breakout rooms with the planning board members being facilitators. So we're trying to have the separate little breakout rooms of being 6 to 8 people to kind of keep it to that more smaller group setting that we had originally proposed for the in-person workshops, to really encourage that free exchange of ideas. So to help people prep for the survey and the workshop questions, I've kind of outlined some of the questions that we're going to be looking for people to answer. I know when I first went through this myself, I came up with some different answers 2 or 3 days later. So it's a good idea to kind of think about it a little bit ahead of time. So the first question is really asking about Yarmouth's strengths, the things that we value and really want to preserve for our future generations. This, in my opinion, is usually the easiest question to answer. And it can include anything from physical places, programs, events, or traditions, all those things that make Yarmouth a great place to live, work, and visit, and makes it an enjoyable community. Identifying things that we are succeeding at. What are we doing right, and what do we want to continue doing? The second question it asks about the challenges that we're facing, not just today, but also in the future. You know, anything that might be missing, a program, an event, a different division or department, populations that are being underserved, or areas where we can improve. And the third question is talking about what are your hopes for Yarmouth's future, your vision, and the opportunities that you can see and identify that will help us get there. What can we do to overcome any challenges that we had identified previously, and what opportunities will help us get there? So after the 3 survey questions and in the workshop pre-registration, there are a few quick demographic questions that we're going to be asking. It's really to understand who's taking the survey and who's not, so we can concentrate additional outreach to be sure that we're hearing everyone's voices and every part of the community is aware of this and can participate if they would like. So the general demographic questions like age, what part of town you live in, do you own a business, just to let us know a little bit more about yourself. And so lastly, what are we going to do with all of this information? A little bit depends on what we get for the information. But we're anticipating, because the survey and the workshops, there's a lot of open-ended questions. So there's going to be a lot of data and ideas to analyze. And we're really going to try to glean the major topics or themes, or those guiding principles, as I had mentioned earlier, that will be used to develop a vision statement, which will then be further reviewed. You can see on your screen there, further refining that vision statement through a second survey and a series of workshops. So we'll take the first information, we'll try and develop the planning board will try to develop what we feel is a vision statement with some major goals and objectives. Then we're going to come back out to you guys next spring, the public, and ask for an additional survey and additional workshops to garner your input so that we can prepare a draft vision statement. We're hoping to have finalize the vision statement through 3rd community workshops in the fall of 2021. A little bit of a long process, but hopefully we're getting a lot of data that needs to be analyzed. So I think I'm going to open it up to questions now from the attendees or the planning board, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can better see who has their hand raised. To ask a question or any input, you can raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised at the moment, which I'm a little surprised about. Let me double check that in it, or you could also put something in the chat box if you would like to do it that way. Oh, I have someone's hand up. It's a Bob Kelly. There you go, Bob.
Okay.
Hello, Bob. Joanne Crowley here. How are you doing?
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Good to almost see you.
Yeah.
Since I know what you look like.
All right. Well, I don't know. Okay. So it looks like there's going to be a self-evaluation about yourself, and then what you think or what we think. After filling out the survey, there's going to be other steps. And what's going to be the forum for that? So in other words, will it be like this? How will it go? How will it move forward?
The workshop.
Bob, I'm going to have Kathy answer that question on the process.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the virtual workshops that we're going to be having?
Yeah. To start getting involved,
Yep.
where would I go to for the survey, first of all?
Yep. It's going to be that visioning website, the Town of Yarmouth visioning website, and I
Okay.
pull it up. If you go to the Town of Yarmouth website, there's a ribbon on the top and it says Community Visioning. Tap right there and you'll be able to get it in there and it'll have all the information. I'd really recommend everyone go. There's a little box there as soon as you go in there that says to sign up with your email, and then you'll get all of the latest information. But on the website, it'll explain to you how to get into the different workshops, how you would register to participate in them, and it will also have that link directly to the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Sure thing.
Hang on one moment. There's a Joan Mullane with her hand up. I'm going to let Joan talk.
Hello, Joan. Nice to have you join us tonight.
Thank you so much for having this. My question was similar. I'm very interested in the water resources part of it, and I wondered if the survey gives you a chance to pick out what area you'd be willing to work on.
I think the survey is so open-ended. Anything that's of concern to you, with regard to a challenge or anything that you want to preserve as far as a strength, you can put that in the survey wherever you like, and or participating in one of the workshops. You can certainly do that as part of the workshop.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Okay. Let me, one moment here. Charles Spooner, just unmute Charles.
Hello, I'm not aware that I raised my hand, but perhaps I did. I have some interest in traffic impacts that the new bridges will create. It seems to me that and perhaps some of the wastewater infrastructure projects will become sort of disruptive occurrences in the time frame we're talking about. And those are useful, those need to be useful community building activities and not just disruptions. I live near 6A and the traffic there is substantial. It impresses me. I guess I'm getting older, but maybe it's also increased traffic. And it's only going to get worse with the bridges, dramatically so. And I think that needs to be a big feature of what we envision. Ditto water resources. And along with that, not only the wastewater management, but the pond quality interest me as well.
I think those are all perfect comments that can easily be incorporated in your responses to the survey questions or the workshop questions. And I have a feeling that those are going to be one of those guiding principle themes that people are really concerned about moving on into the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that.
Stephanie Cox has her hand raised.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi there. Thank you for hosting this process, and it's really exciting to find out what you're going to be working on. One of the questions that I just had is for residents who might be somewhat less educated on the particulars of certain issues, such as wastewater, for example. To what extent is there going to be any kind of primer on those things when getting into kind of visioning and whatnot? So I might not know that, the economic consequences of wastewater. So I might not put it down to something that's important to me. But once I got educated on it, I would probably say, yes, that's very important for the town to address. So that would be an example of the type of thing I think education would be helpful on.
And I think the planning board agreed with that. And that's why we have those data sheets that are available on the community visioning webpage. A lot of times there's some basic information, but then it also will have hyperlinks within there that will send you to our town's water resources page, which has even additional information on it. The the data sheets are a little bit more of a tickler, kind of let you know these are kind of the things that we're working on. But if you want to drill down deeper, we've given you the opportunity to do that. I think that's an excellent point. We really want to have people understand where we are before we start talking about where we're going in the future.
Thank you.
I also, Stephanie, I just want to thank you for sending your note to the planning board with regard to several comments and questions you had, that you took the time over the weekend to get in touch with us. We appreciate that kind of attention to us, if you will, and we would encourage you to reach out to us as we go through this process. And I just wanted to personally thank you for taking the time to get in touch with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Duffy has his hand up.
Mike, good evening.
Okay, I'm muted. You can hear me now?
Yes,
can.
Michael, we can. Thank you.
Well, if I was clairvoyant and was able to define a desired future for the town of Yarmouth, what time frame are you looking at, and what resources would be available to bring the desired future into being?
That's an excellent question. The planning board actually discussed that a little bit. And I guess it kind of depends on what your vision is. There might be some things that can happen in the short term. Maybe it's a program that gets added in the short term. But if it's something that's like a physical improvement where like you want to make a major infrastructure improvement, that is something that would take 20 to 30 years. I think it's up to you as to what you kind of want to define the future, because we want to look at maybe some short-term goals as well as long-term goals, because even in the local comprehensive plan, we're going to come up with a timeline, and there might be some implementation strategies that we're going to do in the next 1 to 2 years because there's something that's doable. Maybe it's 3 to 5 years. With regard to getting to the resources, I think that's where getting things into the queue for the goals for the Board of Selectmen is important, because everything that we do, we have to get money for, and we have to get money for it usually through town meetings. So we need to pull everyone along and build consensus to get to a project so that when we get to town meeting, the funds will be available for there. But the start is kind of identifying what we want to do, getting a little bit more specific with the implementation strategy, and then how do we fund it?
So you would be establishing individual goals probably on an annual basis so that you could measure your progress?
The local comprehensive plan is something that should be looked at every year to kind of gauge where you are and keep be sure that it's not a plan that just collects dust on a shelf. That's the last thing we want to put all this time and effort in and not do that. But things may change over time. We may find that we had some ideas that we wanted to do, and maybe it kind of changes a little bit. So it'll be a little bit of a dynamic plan as we move forward. Did you have anything else, Mike? Or
No, not at the moment. I'm just getting involved in this. So I may over the course of time.
sure.
Good.
No.
I've had a long history in doing these sorts of things in the corporate world.
Oh, excellent.
We'd appreciate whatever participation you can offer us, Mike. Importantly, I'd like to just add that the Board of Selectmen, when they set their annual goals and objectives for the year, and they do want to have the key informant here be the outcomes and the product of this visioning exercise. So we want to make it as useful as it can. As Kathy said, we would prefer that it not just sit on the board, that it be a dynamic, active, living kind of document. So we welcome your participation at all levels. And thank you especially for joining us tonight.
I happen to be a member of the Energy Committee and recently put in place the 5-year plan for the Energy Committee, addressing these same sorts of things, of course, just with an energy perspective.
Excellent.
And in the climate resiliency data sheet, we do reference that 5-year plan with the link to it, so the public can get that information as well.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Hang on 1 minute. Stacy Ober has her hand raised.
Hello, Stacy.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for creating this process. I'm very grateful. And on a day when there's so many distractions, I thought I heard the chair say we have 30 of us participating, which I think is commendable as well. So I just have one point of clarification and then one question. On the virtual workshops, I'm assuming that they're scheduled at different times because you're looking for 80 different participants for each
Correct.
workshop. Okay.
Correct.
And secondly, I did read the data sheets and was grateful for them. I thought they were really well done. And I also saw somewhere, I don't know if it was in the data sheets or on the webpage, that the planning committee was looking for a task force to come together and develop a blighted property bylaw. And I have a good amount of drafting experience and thought that I would inquire about how that might come together and what the timeline might be to work on that.
That's not something that the planning board is working on. I do know that there has been some discussions over time with regard to developing a committee to identify a nuisance bylaw for the town and trying to define exactly what nuisance bylaw is. But that's something that I believe is being looked at now, but that committee has not been developed and the charge is only in draft form. But I think that's something that's being done. I hate to say this through poor Mark Grills, the building commissioner, add that onto his list of things that he's been trying to get to.
So you're not looking for public participation in that process, or you are?
They might be. They're going to have a committee, is my understanding. They haven't developed a committee yet.
Okay.
The charge is just in the draft format at this time.
If I may, Stacy, as a member of the planning board, I'm assigned to the Community and Economic Development Committee. And on that committee, we have begun discussions about what other municipalities are doing with regard to blighted business locations and how various sources of funding, grant funding, could be made available to business owners. The town has some programs already, and the Community Economic Development Committee is looking at all of that. We just had it at our most recent meeting. So there is some attention from a couple of different directions in the town on blight and nuisance. And we'll keep looking at the town website, I think, for our agenda meetings, CEDC, as well as any other announcements that might come through the public forum. Thank you for your interest in that.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry Bedard. There we go.
Welcome, Jerry. Thank you.
Have you done any discussion or talking about the Maniquis and Emmy Small School property?
No, I think with the visioning, if there's some concerns that you have, that you see that there's an opportunity to do something there, then that would be something that you would identify in response to the workshop questions or the survey. Or if you see it, whether it's a positive or a negative, or the opportunities to maybe change the use of the Maniquis property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Madam Chair, isn't there a committee that was formed or has been contemplated to be formed?
You're
Hello,
right.
2020. Okay, I love you. I do, my sweet child. Excuse me one second.
It's funny the way the children come out of nowhere with that screen in the back.
Yeah, we've only been on since 5:30 and she picked 6:05. Okay. So isn't there a Maniquis reuse group, working group, some sort of thing, ma'am?
There's a charge that has been done. I don't know whether that committee has actually been appointed or has met yet. I do know it was something that was looked at pre-COVID. But it's certainly something that's on the books, especially as Maniquis is moving forward, as you've been mentioning, with the 90% plan soon. They're actually coming for formal site plan review for the new Maniquis school on Tuesday.
Right. I just thought it would be helpful to the previous questioner, much like the one about the blighting. Anyway, please pardon me so I can talk to my sweet child. Thank you.
Certainly. Mr. Barron?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Mr. Bedard's question is very appropriate. But if there is a committee being formed, he should be a good candidate to be part of that. We'd encourage it.
Thank you, Tom.
I
Any
do
other
not-
questions, Jerry, that we can for tonight?
No, I'm on the age-friendly community team, so that's why I was asking. Because we kicking some ideas around. I just wanted to know if you had anything that was somewhat concrete.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
I do not see anyone else's hand raised.
Anyone in the chat box, Kath?
Excellent check there for me, Joanne. No one has provided a comment in the chat box.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Jan Hively has her hand raised. Hang
Okay.
on, Jan.
Welcome, Jan.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much for being there and doing this task. I did just want to bring up the issue of walking and of sidewalks and all of the different ways, especially in relationship to older adults, that allow us to, especially those who are not able to drive, to have a little bit more livable community. And I'm not sure whether you have a plan for that. I live in West Yarmouth off of Camp Street in Mill Pond Village. And we have talked about getting a crosswalk, for example, to connect with the other sidewalk on Buck Island Road. But there are other, it seems as if every time that the budget comes around that there needs to be another competition is the message. And usually only one of the plans gets, one of the streets gets the sidewalk each year. So it seems as if a comprehensive plan really is needed and that you could be setting some criteria for that so that it might connect, for example, people with easily with commercial and with housing and with other amenities within the context of your own development plans. However it works, I just wanted to put my oar in for walking.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much, Jan.
I echo that comment, and also
yes,
bike paths
and sidewalks.
And sidewalks. We do have Susan Batista.
Welcome, Susan.
Well, thank you. I'm always very impressed with the well-organized meetings that Yarmouth puts together. So thank you for organizing this. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I just wanted to second what's been talked about really being a pedestrian first community and really thinking about sidewalks, walking lanes, bike lanes. I live off of 28th, off of South Sea, and it's just really a very vibrant area where a lot of people are walking, a lot of tourists are walking and enjoying things along the way. So anything we can do to make it pedestrian friendly, I would certainly think that's something we should encourage. So thank you for the opportunity to mention that, and I look forward to working with this very talented group. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Please sign up for one of our workshops. I encourage all of you tonight who have participated to do that. There are a couple of, Kathy, maybe you can elaborate on just a quick answer to your question. The Bass River Bridge, for example, the replacement there will include additions of not only bike lanes, but expanded pedestrian access as well. So as we go through all of these roadway improvements along 28 and other locations, pedestrian friendly is right at the top of the list of goals. So thank you for that comment, Susan, and we look forward to you participating some more. Thank you.
That's an excellent point, Joanne. Even in the resurfacing project that Mass DOT is looking at, we're trying to get as much included in resurfacing as we possibly can to include sidewalk improvements. I think if anyone's walked that section of Route 28, there's some segments of sidewalk that are completely missing. There's some that aren't handicap accessible. There's some that have, a control box right in the middle of it, so you can't get around it. So definitely just improving those types of things. But one of the things that was discussed is maybe considering looking at having a shared use pathway, an 8-foot wide shared use pathway on the south side of Route 28 along that section. So that came out of the road safety audit. So hopefully they'll at least be looking at that. And as you mentioned, there is a 12-foot wide shared use pathway on the south side of the Bass River Bridge, and it continues, I think it's like 8 to 10 feet all the way to Mill Lane there by Doyle's as part of those two Mass DOT projects. I don't see anyone else's hand raised. I'll check the chat box again. No one in the chat box. I don't see any hands raised.
Any other participants would like, any attendees? Okay. Kathy, if someone should jump in at some point as we continue, maybe we can revisit and come back to them if they're unable to join us during this particular time frame. But having that, I'd like to move on to the next item on our agenda.
Mike Duffy has his hand raised again.
Okay, Mike.
Let me unmute him.
If you
Hi,
go
Mike.
to the chat box, it says this. Whoops, okay, Maya. If you go to the chat box, it says the host has disabled the attendee chat. So maybe
that's not nice of me. No. All right. I have it open now. I apologize if someone has been trying to send a chat to us. But thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Nothing, Kath?
Nothing.
Okay. If someone should, if you should see something, just give me a heads up. All right. The next item